Hey there, and welcome to True Scary Stories. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment telling us where you're from and what time you're watching. That helps YouTube know you love creepy stories, and it'll keep sending more your way.
5 disturbing backcountry hiking trail horror stories. Hey everyone, before we get started, I just want to say, if you're planning a hiking trip anytime soon, maybe save this video for after. These stories come from people who thought they were just going out for a peaceful day in nature. They were wrong. These are 5 disturbing backcountry hiking trail horror stories. Story 1. The Follower. I've been hiking since I was a kid. My dad took me on trails all over Colorado, taught me how to read maps, how to stay safe. So when I moved to Oregon for work last year, I was excited to explore the trails around Mount Hood. That's where this happened. It was early October. The leaves were turning, and I wanted to get one last good hike in before the weather turned. I chose the Timberline Trail, a longer route, about 40 miles if you do the whole loop, but I was just planning on doing a section, maybe 12 miles out and back. The forecast was clear, I had my gear, I left early, around 6 in the morning. The first few hours were perfect, quiet, peaceful, the kind of silence you only get deep in the woods, where the only sounds are your boots on the dirt and maybe a bird somewhere above you. I passed a couple of other hikers around mile 3, nodded, kept going. After that, I was alone. Around mile 7, I stopped to eat. There's this ridge with a view of the valley below, and I sat there with my trail mix, just taking it in. That's when I first felt it. That feeling like someone's watching you. You know the one. It's primal. Something in your brain that just knows. I turned around. Nothing. Just trees. I scanned the trail behind me. Empty. I told myself I was being paranoid. It's easy to get spooked when you're alone in the woods. So I finished eating and kept going. But the feeling didn't go away. I kept glancing over my shoulder. Still nothing. But then I started noticing little things. A snapped branch that looked fresh. Boot prints in the mud that seemed close to mine. Too close. And then around mile 9, I heard it. Footsteps. Not loud, not obvious, but definitely there, matching my pace. When I walked, they walked. When I stopped, they stopped. My heart started pounding. I turned around again, and this time I called out, "Hello? Someone there?" My voice sounded small, swallowed up by the trees. No answer. I kept walking, faster now. The footsteps kept pace. I tried to convince myself it was an echo or an animal or my imagination, but deep down, I knew someone was following me. I decided to test it. I stopped completely and stayed silent, listening. For about 10 seconds, nothing. Then, crunch. A single footstep, close, maybe 30 feet behind me. That's when I started running. I don't know if you've ever tried to run on a hiking trail, but it's not like running on pavement. The ground is uneven, full of roots and rocks. I almost ate it twice, but I didn't care. I just needed to put distance between me and whatever was behind me. I ran for maybe half a mile before I had to stop, gasping for air. I listened. Silence. I thought maybe I'd lost them, but then I heard it again. Footsteps. Slower now. Methodical. Like whoever it was knew they didn't need to rush. Like they were enjoying it. I pulled out my phone. No signal. Of course. I started moving again, this time at a fast walk, trying to conserve energy. I had about 4 miles left to get back to the trailhead. 4 miles. The footsteps stayed with me the whole time. Sometimes closer, sometimes farther back, but always there. When I was about a mile from the parking lot, I passed through this narrow section where the trail cuts between 2 rock faces. It's tight, maybe 3 feet wide. As I came through the other side, I glanced back, and I saw him. Just for a second. A figure, maybe 50 feet behind me, standing perfectly still on the trail. He was wearing dark clothes, a hood pulled up. I couldn't see his face. He didn't move, just stood there, watching me. I didn't wait to see what he'd do. I ran the last mile straight through, didn't stop until I reached my car. I fumbled with my keys, got in, locked the doors. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely get the key in the ignition. As I pulled out of the parking lot, I looked in my rearview mirror. He was there, standing at the edge of the trailhead, still watching me. I drove straight to the ranger station and reported it. They took my information, said they'd send someone to check the trail. I never heard back. I haven't hiked alone since, and sometimes late at night, I think about how close he was, how many times he could have done something but didn't, like he was waiting for the right moment. Or maybe he's still waiting.
Story 2. The Cabin. This happened to me and my girlfriend Jess 2 summers ago. We were doing a 3-day backpacking trip in the North Cascades, Washington. Beautiful area, but remote. We're talking miles from the nearest road, barely any cell service even at the trailhead. Day 1 was fine. We hiked about 8 miles, set up camp near a stream. Day 2, we decided to push a little farther off trail. There was this lake we'd seen on the map, not marked as an official campsite, but it looked pretty. We figured we'd have it to ourselves. We got there around 4 in the afternoon. The lake was perfect, crystal clear, surrounded by pines, totally isolated. We set up our tent on the shore and spent the evening cooking dinner, watching the sun go down. It was exactly the kind of trip we'd been hoping for. Then, we saw the cabin. It was getting dark, maybe 9:30 or so, and Jess was walking along the shore looking for firewood. She called me over, and that's when I saw it. On the opposite side of the lake, maybe 200 yards away, there was a small wooden cabin tucked back in the trees. We hadn't noticed it earlier because of the angle, but now, with the fading light, it was obvious. "That's weird," Jess said. "You think someone lives there?" I shrugged. Maybe it's Forest Service or an old hunting cabin. It looked old for sure. The wood was dark and weathered. No lights, no smoke from the chimney. It looked abandoned. We didn't think much of it. We finished gathering wood, built a small fire, and went to bed around 11. I woke up around 2 in the morning because I had to pee. I unzipped the tent as quietly as I could, trying not to wake Jess, and stepped outside. The moon was almost full, so I could see pretty well. I walked a little ways from the tent, did my business, and was about to head back when I noticed something. There was a light in the cabin. A faint, flickering light, like a candle or a lantern. I stared at it for a minute, trying to figure out if I was seeing things. But no, it was definitely there. Someone was in that cabin. I went back to the tent and woke Jess up. "Hey, there's someone in that cabin." She was groggy. "What? What cabin?" "The one across the lake. There's a light on." She sat up, looked out through the tent mesh. "Maybe it's a ranger or something." "At 2 in the morning?" She didn't have an answer for that. We both sat there, watching the light. It didn't move, just flickered, steady and dim. After a while, Jess said, "Maybe we should go back to sleep. If it's a person, they're way over there. They're not bothering us." She had a point, so we tried to sleep. But I couldn't. I kept thinking about that light, about why someone would be out here in the middle of nowhere in the middle of the night. Around 3:30, I heard something. Footsteps in the water. I sat up, barely breathing. Jess was asleep next to me. The sound was faint but unmistakable. Someone was walking through the shallow water along the shore, coming toward us. I unzipped the tent just enough to look out. There was a figure, maybe 50 feet away, walking slowly along the edge of the lake. It was too dark to see details, but I could make out the shape. Tall, thin, moving with this strange, unhurried gait. My heart was hammering. I reached over and shook Jess awake. She started to say something, but I put my hand over her mouth and pointed. She saw it. Her eyes went wide. The figure kept walking. It passed in front of our campsite, maybe 30 feet from the tent. It didn't look at us, didn't stop, just kept walking, splashing softly through the water until it disappeared into the trees on the far side. We didn't move. didn't say a word. We just sat there, listening. After about 10 minutes, Jess whispered, "What the hell was that?" "I don't know. Should we leave?" I wanted to, but it was the middle of the night and we were miles from anywhere. Hiking in the dark on unfamiliar trails seemed like a worse option. "Let's wait until morning. We'll pack up at first light and get out of here." We didn't sleep after that. We just sat in the tent, listening to every sound, waiting for the sun to come up. When dawn finally broke, we packed up in record time. We didn't talk, didn't make breakfast. We just wanted to leave. As we were getting ready to go, I looked across the lake at the cabin one more time. The door was open. It had been closed the night before, I was sure of it. "Jess, look!" She turned, saw the open door. "Let's go, now!" We hiked faster than we'd ever hiked before. We didn't stop until we hit the main trail. Later, when we got back to civilization, I did some research. I couldn't find any record of a cabin at that lake. No Forest Service buildings, no private property, nothing. To this day, I don't know who or what was out there. But I know one thing, we're never going back.
Story 3. The Screaming. I was 22 when this happened, doing a solo trek through the Adirondacks in upstate New York. It was late September, and I'd been planning the trip for months. 5 days, about 60 miles total, mostly backcountry. I'm not going to lie, I was a little cocky about it. I'd done plenty of hiking before, and I thought I was ready for anything. Day 3, I was about 25 miles in, following this old trail that wound through some pretty dense forest. It was late afternoon, maybe 4 or 5 o'clock, and I was looking for a spot to set up camp for the night. That's when I heard the scream. It was distant at first, high-pitched, raw. It sounded human, but there was something off about it, like it was coming from someone in serious pain. It echoed through the trees, and then it stopped. I froze, listened. Nothing. I told myself it was an animal, maybe a fox. They can sound almost human sometimes, but something about it didn't sit right. I kept walking, trying to shake it off, but about 10 minutes later I heard it again, closer this time. A long, drawn-out scream that made my skin crawl. I stopped and called out, "Hello? You okay? Do you need help?" No answer. My mind was racing. If someone was hurt out there, I needed to help, but at the same time, every instinct I had was telling me to keep walking, to not get involved. I stood there for a minute, debating. Then I heard it again. This time it was even closer, maybe 100 yards to my left, off the trail. I made a decision. I dropped my pack, pulled out my flashlight, it was starting to get dark, and headed toward the sound. The forest was thick, and I had to push through branches and underbrush. I kept calling out, asking if anyone was there. No response. Just that scream, over and over, always just out of reach. After about 10 minutes bushwhacking, I came to a small clearing, and that's when I saw it. There was nothing there. No person, no animal, just an old, rusted speaker hanging from a tree branch. I walked up to it, confused. It was the kind of speaker you'd use for a PA system, wired to a small battery pack attached to the trunk, and it was playing a loop, the same scream over and over. I stood there, staring at it, trying to make sense of what I was looking at. Why would someone set this up out here? What was the point? That's when I heard the footsteps behind me. I spun around. There was a man standing at the edge of the clearing, maybe 20 feet away. He was wearing hunting camo, and he had a rifle slung over his shoulder. He didn't say anything, just looked at me. "Hey," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Is this yours?" He didn't answer. He just stared. "I heard the screaming. I thought someone was hurt." He smiled. Not a friendly smile. A cold, thin smile that didn't reach his eyes. "That's the idea," he said. I felt my stomach drop. "What do you mean?" He took a step closer. "People hear it. They come looking. Makes it easy."
I didn't wait to hear more. I turned and ran. I crashed through the forest, branches whipping my face, my heart pounding so hard I thought it was going to burst. I could hear him behind me, not running, just walking, like he knew he didn't need to hurry. I made it back to the trail, grabbed my pack, and kept running. I didn't stop until I couldn't hear him anymore. I hiked through the night, didn't stop until I reached the next trailhead around dawn. I reported it to the police. They said they'd check it out, but I never heard if they found anything. I think about that a lot, about what he meant, about what would have happened if I'd gotten there just a little earlier or a little later. I still hike, but I don't go off trail anymore, and if I hear screaming, I keep walking.
Story 4. The Wrong Trail. Last year, my buddy Chris and I decided to hike part of the Appalachian Trail in Tennessee. We'd done sections of it before, and we figured we'd knock out a good chunk over a long weekend. 3 days, 2 nights. The first day was great. We covered about 15 miles, set up camp, had dinner. The weather was perfect. Everything was going according to plan. Day 2, we got up early and started hiking. Around noon, we came to a fork in the trail. According to our map, we were supposed to stay left, but there was this other trail branching off to the right. It wasn't on the map. Chris wanted to check it out. He said it might be a shortcut, or maybe it led to a view or something. I wasn't sure, but he was persistent, so I agreed. We followed the unmarked trail for about half a mile. It was narrower than the main trail, overgrown in places, but it seemed to be heading in the right general direction. We figured we'd follow it for a bit and see where it went. After about a mile, we came to a clearing, and in the middle of the clearing, there was a tent. It was old. The fabric was torn and faded, covered in dirt and leaves. It looked like it had been there for a long time. "Should we check it out?" Chris asked. I didn't want to. Something about it felt wrong, but Chris was already walking toward it. He unzipped the tent and looked inside. Then he went really still. "Dude, you need to see this." I walked over and looked in. There was a sleeping bag inside, and inside the sleeping bag, there were bones. Human bones. I felt like I was going to be sick. "Chris, we need to go. Now." He nodded. We both backed away from the tent and started walking back the way we'd come, but after about 50 feet, Chris stopped. "Wait," he said. "Where's the trail?" I looked around. He was right. The trail we'd just walked on, it was gone. Or at least I couldn't see it. Everything looked the same, just trees and underbrush. We spent the next 20 minutes trying to find our way back, but it was like the trail had just disappeared. Every direction looked identical. That's when we heard the voice. It was faint, coming from somewhere in the trees, a woman's voice, singing. We both froze. The singing was soft, almost like a lullaby. It was coming from the direction we'd just walked from, toward the tent. "Let's go," Chris whispered. We picked a direction and started walking. The singing followed us. It got louder, closer. We started running. I don't know how long we ran, but eventually we burst out onto the main trail. We recognized it immediately. We didn't stop. We just kept going until we reached the trailhead, threw our stuff in the car, and drove. We reported it to the rangers, told them about the tent, the bones, everything. They said they'd investigate, but when I called back a week later, they said they couldn't find anything. No tent, no clearing, no bones. They said we must have been mistaken, but I know what we saw, and I know what we heard. We haven't been back to that section of the trail, and honestly, I don't think I ever will. Because some trails aren't meant to be found, and some things in the woods are better left alone.
Story 5. The Mimic. This happened to me 3 years ago in Montana, in the Bob Marshall Wilderness. If you don't know it, it's one of the most remote areas in the lower 48. Over 1 million acres of backcountry. No roads, no cell service, nothing. Just you and the mountains. I went out there with my friend Tyler. We'd been planning the trip for over a year. 10 days, a massive loop trail that would take us deep into the wilderness. We were experienced. We had all the right gear. We thought we were prepared for anything. The first 5 days were incredible. We saw maybe 3 other people the entire time. Grizzly tracks, elk herds, crystal clear lakes. It was everything we'd hoped for. On day 6, we were camped near this alpine meadow, probably 30 miles from the nearest trailhead. We'd had a long day, almost 18 miles, and we were exhausted. We ate dinner, hung our food in a bear bag, and turned in early. It was just starting to get dark, maybe 8:30 or so. I fell asleep fast, but around midnight I woke up to Tyler shaking my shoulder. "Hey," he whispered, "you hear that?" I listened. At first, I didn't hear anything. Then I caught it, a voice calling from somewhere outside our tent. "Tyler, help!" It was my voice, calling Tyler's name. I felt ice run through my veins. Tyler was staring at me, his face pale in the dim light from his headlamp. That's you," he said. "I know." We both stayed perfectly still, listening. The voice called out again. "Tyler, I'm hurt! Help me!" It sounded exactly like me. The same tone, the same inflection. If I hadn't been sitting right there, I would have sworn it was me calling for help. "What the hell is that?" Tyler whispered. I didn't answer. I didn't know. The voice kept calling. Sometimes it was far away, like it was coming from the edge of the meadow. Sometimes it sounded closer, like it was right outside the tent. But it was always my voice, always calling for Tyler. After about 20 minutes, it stopped. We sat there in silence, neither of us moving. Finally, Tyler said, "Should we look outside?" "No," I said immediately. "Whatever that was, we're not going out there." He nodded. We sat there for another hour, just listening. Nothing. Eventually, we tried to get some sleep, though I don't think either of us really did. When the sun came up, we got out of the tent and looked around. Nothing seemed disturbed. Our bear bag was still hanging, no tracks, no signs of anything. "Maybe it was a mountain lion," Tyler said, though he didn't sound convinced. "They can make weird sounds." I'd heard mountain lions before. This wasn't that. We packed up and got moving. We didn't talk about it much. I think we were both trying to convince ourselves it was nothing. That night, we camped about 12 miles away, near a creek. We set up the tent, made dinner, and tried to act normal. But I could tell Tyler was on edge. So was I. Around 10 o'clock, we heard it again. This time, it was Tyler's voice, calling my name. "Derek! Derek, where are you?" We were both in the tent. I looked at Tyler. His mouth was closed. He wasn't making any sound. The voice kept calling. "Derek! I can't find the tent! Derek!" It sounded panicked, desperate. If I hadn't been looking right at Tyler, I would have sworn it was him lost in the woods trying to find his way back. Then I heard something that made my blood run cold. Another voice, my voice, answering. "Tyler, I'm over here. Follow my voice." We were both in the tent, silent. But outside, we could hear our voices calling to each other back and forth, like we were trying to find each other in the dark. Tyler grabbed my arm. "What is happening?" I shook my head. I had no idea. The voices kept going for maybe 10 minutes. Then they stopped, just like the night before. Sudden, complete silence. We didn't sleep that night. We sat back to back in the tent, headlamps on, knives out, waiting for dawn. When the sun came up, we made a decision. We're getting out. Forget the rest of the loop. We are hiking straight back to the trailhead. It was going to be a brutal day, almost 25 miles, but we didn't care. We just wanted out of there. We packed up and started moving, fast. Around noon, we stopped for a quick break. We were sitting on a fallen log drinking water when we heard it. Footsteps behind us on the trail. We both turned around. There was someone walking toward us, maybe 50 yards back. As they got closer, I felt my stomach drop. It was me. I was looking at myself. Same jacket, same backpack, same everything, walking up the trail toward us. Tyler saw it too. "Derek," he said quietly, "that's you." "I know." The figure kept walking, getting closer. Its face was blank, no expression, just empty. "We need to run," I said. We took off. We ran down that trail like our lives depended on it. I don't know if it was chasing us. I didn't look back. We just ran. After about a mile, Tyler grabbed my arm. "Stop. Listen." We stopped. Behind us, we could hear footsteps, but there were two sets now. One sounded like my boots, the other sounded like Tyler's. "They're both following us," Tyler said. We didn't wait around. We kept moving, alternating between running and fast walking. Every time we stopped, we could hear them, always behind us, always getting closer. It took us almost 9 hours, but we made it to the trailhead just before dark. We threw our gear in the car and got the hell out of there. We drove for 2 hours before we stopped. When we finally did, at a gas station in some small town, we both just sat there for a while, not saying anything. Finally, Tyler said, "What were those things?" I didn't have an answer. I still don't. We reported it to the Forest Service. They listened, took notes, but I could tell they didn't believe us. They probably thought we got spooked by wildlife or ate some bad food. But I know what I saw. I saw myself walking up that trail. I heard my own voice calling from the woods. Tyler and I don't talk much anymore. I think that trip messed him up. Messed me up too, if I'm being honest. I still hike, but I won't go back to Montana, and I'll never camp in a place that remote again. Because there are things out there in the deep wilderness, things that watch, things that learn, things that can become you. And the scariest part? I don't think they're animals. I think there's something else, something we don't have a name for, something that's been out there a lot longer than we have. So, there you have it. 5 disturbing backcountry hiking trail horror stories. If you've got a story of your own, let me know in the comments. And if you're heading out on a hike anytime soon, trust the marked trails. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.